Welcome to the Wager Makers Podcast with Webb and Smitt.
Brick by brick, baby. I'm freaking out, Webb.
There'd be no man. Stupidity's going to be an asset. What a bunch of crybabies.
Hello, my name is Steve Smith, and this is Rob Weber. Say hey, Webb.
Hello. What's up, Smith?
What up, Webb? I'm Smith, that's Webb, and we are the Wager Makers, and this is the Wager Makers Podcast. Webb, this is Wager Maker Podcast number 33.
33 is a big number, Smith. There's a lot of great 33s out there. I'm sure we're going to kind of butt heads a little bit, or maybe not. But I'm going to go with my man Tony D from Big D. I'm sure you may have something different.
Yeah, I figured you'd go with the Big D 33, but to me, there's no better player than Larry Bird's one of the greatest to ever step on a basketball court. Tony Dorsett obviously was a great running back, but I don't think he's obviously Hall of Famer, but I'll take Larry Bird all day, every day. We had a call in from Mike Lynch the other day. He was texting us the new 33 was coming up. He wanted to make sure we put old Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in there, Lou Alcindor.
Lou Alcindor, he's East Coast boy, New York.
Yeah, I think Cunard coached him at some point in his career. I don't know if it was a summer league team or some kind of stuff, but our high school coach Jack Cunard, rest in peace. Great guy, and he coached a lot of great players, including Tim Perry. And speaking of Lee Perry, Rutgers University tonight. Congratulations, Webb. You can't say I'm always a homer. Rutgers Scarlet Knights broke into the top 25 this week for the first time since 1979.
There you go, Rutgers Rob, baby. Upstream, downstream. It's good. They're good, man. Iraq's a tough place to play. It was always tough. I was there 19. I don't know what year. Lee was there. Lee Perry was there. I think they made the tournament one time when I was there, 91, something like that, 90. And then they went to the NIT the next year, and then I don't think they've done anything since then. But good for them. They got great facilities. Make a move in basketball. That's fine with me, and football's right behind them.
Right. Congrats to the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Obviously pulling for them. They play Iowa tonight in a big game. I think Webb, you picked against them. You picked against them in that game tonight, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. They're riding way high. I've been on them a couple times, so you got to think smart here. It's a big game.
Right. All right. Moving on. Obviously, the big news of the week. We got the Super Bowl contenders in there. The Chiefs and the 49ers. It's going to be a great matchup. Really interesting matchup between two teams. You have any early feels on that one?
It's a great matchup. I think they're probably the two best teams. The early feel for me, it's -1 with a little extra juice on it here and 54. For me, I'm leaning Chiefs just based on Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, the kid is amazing. The matchup, like I said, it's kind of even, come back and forth. You can argue certainly either way. I think the Niners are probably the better team, but if Patrick Mahomes is down 24, that may not be enough. So at this point, I'm sure we're going to go back and forth. We'll have a pick obviously next week, but right now I'm just leaning Chiefs, and that total sitting at 54 back in the day. It was always over around the Super Bowls. I'm not so sure about that in this game, but we'll figure it out.
Yep, I think it's an interesting matchup. Two contrasting styles. The 49ers played a real physical play. They run the ball. Obviously, Kansas City's played much better defensively in the second half of the season, I think, than people give them credit for. But Mahomes is just phenomenal. To me, like you say, I mentioned as soon as it came out, I think Monday morning the line came out. Kansas City was favored by 1 or 1.5, depending on where you saw. I thought it was a solid number. It's a tough, kind of a toss-up game. To me, I'm leaning. Some people asked me today. I'm leaning with the better quarterback in this situation.
Yeah.
If things don't go well for Kansas City early, I can see them coming back. Obviously, they didn't really show up in the first quarter of either of the first two playoff games, and they still came back and kicked some ass. But if things don't go well for the 49ers early, it's going to be trouble for Garoppolo. I think you don't want to have that team and be down 10 points at some point or something like that. Man, Mahomes they've been putting after the first quarter of these games, they're going like 7 straight touchdown drives, 5 straight touchdown drives. It's been unbelievable.
Crazy. The Niners, the Niners don't want Garoppolo throwing the ball 20 times. I saw something, a statistic where I was kind of shocked. They said the Chiefs throw the ball only 60% of the time. I would have guessed it's way high. I don't know that he runs the ball 10 times a game, Andy Reid.
Yeah, right. Knowing Andy Reid, I was especially, you mentioned the other day when they were that first game when they were losing against Tennessee, against Houston, and I said, man, they're going to definitely go over. You said they're definitely going to go over in this game because Andy Reid's not going to If he's down, he's not running the
He's
ball.
not going to run it once. He won't run it at all. So I was kind of surprised he only ran at 60%. I mean, maybe they don't run that many plays. They score so quickly. I think for the Chiefs, the defensive line, I think his name is Chris Jones or something like that, defensive tackle. And in the beginning of the season, he was out, and that's when their defense was really kind of hurting. And he came back a little bit in the middle of the season, towards the end, and then he played better. I'm not sure. I think he's been out again, but that's something to keep an eye on. And then obviously that's San Francisco defensive line versus the KC offensive line. But then you still got Mahomes running around there already. Just as good running right, left, backwards, forwards, sidearm, left-handed, whatever he's going to do. So it's hard to bet against him. And I'm not the biggest Niner fan, obviously, from the Cowboys history. But, any excuse not to – I would bet him. But I just think, like I said, we're going to go with the better quarterback probably.
Right. I mean, Jimmy G, obviously he didn't have to throw it all last week, but only 6 of 8 for 77 yards. I thought he looked a little shaky in the game against Minnesota, but they didn't need him then either. I mean, they really – the defense and the running game really dominated both of those playoff games, and Jimmy G didn't have to do anything. Certainly, even with as good as San Francisco's defense is in this game and everything else and the running game, Mahomes is going to get some. He's going to get some points. Mahomes and their wide receiver and Kelsey and I mean they're and Hill.
Too?
Well, they got in this game. One of the highlights of this game, I think, is the matchup between the two tight ends. This is the two best tight ends in the game, no doubt. Kittle and Kelsey are unbelievable.
Yeah, but Kittle is almost minimized by their lack of. I mean, he if he was on a different team, he'd have some gaudy numbers. If he's on the Patriots, he'd be Gronkowski. Yeah, I guess the thing with the Niners though, that one corner is they can pick on him, and you have to double Kelson. He could still beat the double team. I mean, they scored all those points last week, and he only had 3 catches. I bet over his catches, which is only 5.5, and they only got with 3 catches for 30 yards, and they still scored whatever points they scored. So even if you take him away, they're going to put some points on the board. Tyreek Hill, even, Sammy Watson comes up with a play here and there. He hasn't really done much for them, but you have to guard him, so it's interesting. They have a bunch of, and even the running back, they hit him in stride. Next thing you know, he's running 30 yards down the field. And the Niners' strength is the front seven, the secondary. Richard Seymour's playing real good, and Jimmy Ward, I think, is good too. But that other corner get picked on. They're going to call that out right away. He's going to get benched, like they said. So that's interesting, very interesting. But then again, the Chiefs have their problems too. But it's going to come down to see what Garoppolo does. Even throwing the ball 8 times is ridiculous. How is that even possible? I mean, you gave the guy $100 million.
Well, I mean, they didn't need to. They won by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Dude
ran.
If you're running back Motart or whatever, he ran for 200 plus yards.
Yeah, I guess to say Derrick Henry doing the same thing. Yeah,
right.
Yep.
And then
why?
Right, but and some guys were saying, man, but they're not going to be able to stop the running game. But everybody said that about the Tennessee Titans last week, and Henry only had 69 yards rushing, but they really went away from that in the second half. But that's what happens when you're down. When you get down, the other team's going to score every time you touch the ball. I mean, you can only stick with that running game so much.
And I mean, if they're up 10, that means they're going to be up 17 in a blink of an eye. That game will get away from you. I mean, we saw that in the game. They were down 20-0. They were losing, and down a couple. They were getting beat by covering at halftime. So.
Right. Both of these games were blowouts, and really, Kansas City played about as bad as you can play in both of them in the first quarter. Drop passes. Kelsey dropped the first couple drives again this week. Kelsey dropped the pass. A couple other guys dropped the pass.
Even the other starting Harrison or whatever, number 11, he's had a bunch of drops, and it just doesn't even matter.
Right.
It just doesn't matter.
Right. We'll get him next time.
Right.
All right. We'll stay up in your parts for some news. Webb, your buddy Jason Garrett's coming to New York, New Jersey.
That is the map.
I think also isn't Kitchens going up there too?
I saw something about. I don't know if that was. I didn't see it was a done deal. I don't know. Again, the Freddie Kitchens. That's funny. But Jason Garrett. I don't get it. How are you going to go from being the Dallas Cowboys head coach for 9 years to calling plays for Jerry Judge or whatever the guy's name is, the head coach of the Giants? Maybe he's just kind of biding his time. But I'm glad Jason Garrett's not my coach anymore. I just told a bunch of my bosses, a Giant fan, I told him I hope he likes kicking field goals. I better get a good kicker.
I don't know, man. Maybe that Jason Garrett, Danny Dimes combination.
No, come on.
Now that Eli announces retirement today.
Yep, I saw that. We'll see what's going to happen with the Giants. I see a lot of yardage between the 20s.
A lot of talk about Eli Manning's retirement. And a lot of questions say, is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer, Webb?
Yeah, there's no doubt. How many quarterbacks have won 2 Super Bowls? But that's not because he was good. He just won 2 Super Bowls. He's not getting it. His first of all, his durability, his Iron Man thing would get him in, first of all. And second of all, he won 2 Super Bowls, especially in New York. He's not a dick. He's got the name. All those things equal first ballot Hall of Fame. But he was not particularly good.
Right. Obviously, thank God for him, or Tom Brady would have 2 more Super Bowl rings to his credit if it wasn't for those teams. We'll say those teams that were able to knock off Tom Brady. Brady would have 8 instead of 6 Super Bowl rings. Or
well, he had the dude catch the ball on his head, and then they do it 10,000 or million more times. That throw to Manningham is they'll never complete it again. So that's just another scenario. And there's a couple of one year they lost to the Packers on a field goal at the Packers. I'm sure if they had it again, the dude makes the kick, and they're not even in the Super Bowl. So, but yes, the answer yes. That doesn't pain me to say that either. He deserved it.
All right, cool. And it'd be fun to watch those matchups with the Giants and the Cowboys with Jason Garrett on the sidelines doing his hand clap.
Exactly. Standing there clapping.
So speaking of the Hall of Fame, Webb, great New York Yankee, obviously. Derek Jeter, can't go through this show without mentioning my boy Derek Jeter. Got into the Hall of Fame. Not a unanimous decision. He got 396 out of 397 votes.
Ponderous.
I want to know who the guy is that made that vote. Because you should get his vote taken away.
What do you have to do, to be unanimous? It's funny. I met him one time way back when at Brother Jimmy's in the city. Derek Jeter's classiest guy ever. Was great. Sitting in the back eating ribs with one of his boys. It's great. The man. So cool, unbelievable career. Obviously, you can't, nothing we could say that could even match just what everybody knows that Derek Jeter has done, what he did, how successful he was, the way he went about his business every day. Even with the ladies, he was classy with the ladies, and that's an impressive roster he had there too. They went over it. My man Howard Stern was talking about it today.
Yeah, I saw one thing on Facebook had like a baseball diamond of and there was a position for each field, with the Jessica Albas and all the other
there was
ladies.
A bunch.
But his girl is married. I think he's got kids now with Hannah Davis.
Yeah, that's their model, right?
So,
yeah.
So
it's funny. I'd like to know. Gave everyone after it was over. He gave everyone a gift basket and a signed baseball.
Class.
Here you go. Let's say I ever gave you.
I'm wondering. When I went to a game in Miami last summer, where he's the general manager at now, and they didn't seem to like him too much down there.
Well, that's another. Well, first of all, he got rid of everybody good when he got there. And second, I mean, that seems to be the thing. I mean, you look at Michael Jordan, obviously greatest ever in anything. He can't run a franchise. John Elway got lucky with Peyton Manning there, and Jeter obviously has been down there a number, 3 or 4 or 5 years now, and they're still, bringing up the basement. So
yeah. So that made me wonder if maybe that 397th vote was some reporter down there in Miami or something.
It's a Cuban reporter in Miami. Yeah, I didn't like what he. Yeah.
Speaking of married, Tim Tebow got married this week. Webb, he's big news. If you hear like a volcano eruption or something like that up by you or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So he's long-standing. So I said he was gonna stay celibate until he was married. Good for him. If you're religious into that sort of thing.
I mean, he married some crazy supermodel, right, or something, Israeli supermodel.
Yeah,
something
I think Miss Universe contestant or something ridiculous like
that. That's what it was.
Right.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course.
Yeah. So good for him. Good for her.
Right,
congratulations.
Exactly. I liked it. He took care of me in Florida. He was good.
Yeah, he did. All right. Yeah, he would get those covers when they're running the ball out. He'd have to run the ball and just knock it in the end zone through up the. So big news here in New Orleans, Webb. We're doing a podcast for those that don't know. 7:30 Central Time today. I figured that Zion would be playing right now on the TV in front of me, but that's going to be a late start because it's going to be on national TV. So it's an 8:30 here start.
Flexing up. Sure. Yep.
Right. The Zion is in the house, man. First game tonight. New Orleans fans super excited. I don't know if he's starting or not. I believe he is starting.
Probably.
Why not?
And they're playing better, man. They're closing up on that 8th spot, right? They're only a couple behind Memphis.
They are. It seems like for the last couple weeks they've been like. Go ahead. For the last couple weeks they've been
versus the Lakers.
Yeah. That would be something.
Right.
And maybe if they're playing better, I mean, look, we were on them early in the season for how bad they were. I think at one point they lost 12 or 13 games in a row. You got to be really trying in the NBA to lose 12 or 13 games in a row because some nights teams just don't show up. If you just go up and play hard, you'll win. but that obviously didn't happen. But man, they've been playing the last few weeks. Man, they're winning 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10. They're beating teams that are pretty good. Even they lost a game this week to the Clippers, and that came down to the wire. I think there was a bad call towards the end. Questionable call, but they took the Clippers right down to the end. Yesterday, Martin Luther King Day, they went into Memphis, Memphis has been playing real well, and beat Memphis. So they've been playing much better
too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see if Zion they can just continue to play well, or if they're going to be right back into a little bit of a learning curve and figuring out where people are spaced out and what all that kind of thing that sometimes when a new player is added to the mix. Hopefully they can just pick up right where they're at, and Zion will just help them a little more without too much.
I don't know. He's got to be on a little bit of a game management thing, right? I would assume.
Oh, no doubt. I'm sure he probably isn't going to be playing more than 15 minutes a game here in the beginning, I would think. Plus, man, I got to be honest, man. Look, I'm no one to say kind of stuff like this, but dude looks a little heavy to me. In pictures and videos of him working out, dude looks a little heavy, man. And the way he jumps, the way he plays, that's going to be interesting to see how his knees and ankles and all that kind of stuff holds up. He's shown that he's a little bit injury prone at this point. Obviously had some issues at Duke with the injuries, and now to start his career here. So with where they're at, I hope they just take it easy, get him back into shape, and really there's no reason to rush this kid in at this point now in the season. Now that we've already gone, we're almost to the All-Star break, I think. And no reason to rush him in and do more than we need to do at this point. Just get him into playing shape, just to get him some run before next season, so it's not everything starting from scratch by next season. And hey, who knows? Maybe you keep it up for a little while, and maybe you do make a little run to the playoffs.
Sneak in that playoffs, yeah. And the thing I was reading about it today, and the phrase or the word I kept hearing was he plays with so much torque.
Yeah.
And so with that big body of his, so that maybe that's probably a concern. Don't want him to get hurt. They don't want him to lose it again and have him be out till
right. Or where it's just an ongoing, where it's just a continuous thing, keep happening. So you got to get to play in shape. So hopefully, I'm looking forward to seeing that. That'd probably be starting in about an hour tonight.
I'm actually going to watch some of that myself.
Right. Let's see. So there's a couple moves in college football. Your buddy Franks, the quarterback from Florida, transferred to Arkansas, and he can play right away because of whatever the rules are nowadays.
Yeah.
So he gets punched. He's a cocky asshole. We call him out after the games early in the season. He gets hurt, gets benched. The guy takes over, kicks ass, and now he's going to Arkansas, who's just straight up stinks.
Yeah, he's not going to do anything. He's going to be the same nonsense there. Meanwhile, the kid who replaced him is Trask. I think is going to end up. He's going to be in the NFL.
Yeah, Florida's going to be a top 10 preseason team next year.
Yep.
So also we talked a lot about the Houston quarterback, D'Eriq King. That he's the guy that we talked a lot about, played 4 games, things didn't go well. And it looked like the coach was really behind it too, about sitting him and letting him redshirt for another year. But who knows what this real story is behind all that. Maybe the coach was just being supportive, didn't want to talk shit about him in the press or whatever. But they just announced that he's going to Miami University of Hurricanes.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know that that's even a better. I would doubt that that's a better spot for him. I think Holmgren's a better offensive coach, or Dana, something like that. Holmgren, something like that. The old West Virginia coach. It's funny too, because that D'Eriq King was a huge draft. He was from Houston. He was started ahead of the kid Trask from Florida. So it kind of, that whole role is reversed. Florida's going to kick Miami's ass, I'm sure, probably again this year. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know what these guys are thinking. He to me doesn't look like a pro quarterback. Who knows? Maybe he's going to do it again. Maybe he'll get hurt. We'll see.
Yeah. Or I wonder if he can play 4 games and do it again.
If they're going to
go somewhere else.
Yep. Sorry, coach.
There was some talk early on. There was some talk early on about him going to LSU.
Yeah,
obviously that didn't pan out. But LSU, man, obviously coming off the national championship, they get such a long road to hoe ahead of them. We're going to really see if this team is like the new Alabama, really like reproducing players like a factory or not, because they lost 19 players from the team last year, including nine underclassmen, who those are the guys you're really expecting to step up at that point and kind of take over the reins for the seniors. 9 freshmen. They lost Brady, who we talked a lot about this season, about he was really the offensive mastermind to this passing part of offense, everything. And they also lost their defensive coordinator, Dave Aranda, went to Baylor, I believe, is where he went. So obviously LSU and Coach O, they had a great year, but they're going to have a big task ahead of them to recoup after losing all these things. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, there's a couple of first rounders in there too. I mean, Burrow's there's at least 3 top 20 picks that are gone. The good corner, the safety, and then obviously Burrow.
So yeah, Stingley, obviously Burrow, a couple of, and
Delpit, whatever his name is.
And just we didn't really touch on it much last week. We talked a little bit about Kiffin going to Ole Miss, and but also your buddy Mike Leach is going to Mississippi State. I don't know if you saw that.
That's crazy. That's going to be a wacky.
Right.
The SEC's going.
The SEC wacky. West. The SEC West is going to be nuts, man. Nick Saban's going to have a hard time keeping up with these cats.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens when he goes back to Tennessee too. To see Kiffin goes back to Tennessee. Right. Didn't he leave there unceremoniously?
I'm pretty sure they hate him there. I'm pretty sure they hate him there.
Yeah.
He took what was the biggest job. Right. Took his biggest job of his life only to leave after a year to go USC. And say, oh, this is the best. This is the job of a lifetime.
Yeah, to leave that one 18 months later.
So obviously next week we'll be getting real into the Super Bowl and all our picks. But just wanted to remind you guys, look, congratulations. We made it through a whole college and pro football season up until we got a Pro Bowl coming up and the NFL Super Bowl. It's amazing. This is 33 podcasts already, but just don't forget, listen, we're going to still be doing this weekly all the time. There's lots of other stuff, absolutely. Lots of other action, right? We got just because football over doesn't mean don't keep track of us. Don't forget on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, we always put our Major League Baseball, NCAA basketball, NBA hoops, and NHL on air every day. And just a couple reminders. If you were watching us on Facebook last week, we came out there with the Conor McGregor.
Yep, it didn't even take a minute to get paid on that one.
Right.
That was some easy money right there on that one. And you know what, Smith? There's Antonio Brown is still around, so we'll always have something to talk about.
We didn't think about Antonio Brown. Is he locked up in his house right now with the police outside still? Or what?
They're just saying, yeah, he's something. What does it say? AB warrants issued for arrest of AB.
Oh,
so I don't know.
I think they threw rocks at the truck driver yesterday or something.
We accomplished a lot in this short period of time. AB's really got some shit done for himself too, man. He's making $20 million a couple months ago. Now he's going to be in the county.
By next season, he might be willing to be a guest on the show.
That's right. He'll be our intern. He could be our intern.
That'd be fun.
Brown and AB got to fight it out.
We talked a little about Odell Beckham Jr. and all this fiasco on slapping the slapping a cop on the butt and handing out money at the game. Who would you rather hang out with, Webb, at the club? OBJ or Antonio Brown?
Well, I guess it's got to be OBJ. He's throwing cash around, so I'll hang with him.
Yeah, he's making it rain up in the bitch.
That's a party. That dude's a party.
Yeah, you're probably right. Right. Because AB, they're both off the wall, but AB, you don't know where that shit's going to take you.
The cops be coming.
Right. Oh, man. So, obviously, had this Conor McGregor. Also wanted to mention Scott Wheatley. We posted his article. He gave us a great article on so now this time of year, right? So the Kentucky Derby prep races that are all for qualifying points are getting started. At the fairgrounds last week, the Silver Bullet Day Stakes, and Scott Wheatley gave us a nice write-up. I put it on Facebook. I put it on our Twitter and Instagram. And he had the winner, Finite, won by a nose. I watched just a little while ago, the tape rebroadcast of that, and won by a nose. So congratulations, Scott. And now, just so you know, there's another stakes race coming up, the Smarty Jones Stakes. That's at Oaklawn Park in Hot Springs, Arkansas, Friday night the 24th. That's the 8th race in that. And that's also for Kentucky Derby qualifying points. And Scott's going to have another write-up. He wrote it for me today. I'll be posting that on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter tomorrow as well. So hopefully Scott can come up 2 for 2. I know what the horse he picked already, but I'm gonna put that out on our
pocket.
I'm gonna put that out on our social media tomorrow. So looking forward to that. He's got another great write-up with all the horses and why he thinks they're going to finish where. So it's going to be great.
Also, yeah, we'll be, before you know it, it'll be March Madness. We'll be rolling right into all the, the big horse races and, pitchers and catchers right around the corner. A bunch of stuff going on with the Astros. The Mets, I think, are getting ready to hire Rojas or someone as their new manager. Only the Mets, only that shit would happen to the Mets. They're talking about vacating, giving the Dodgers the World Series. Did you see anything about that?
I did, but I think Major League Baseball came out and said they won't be doing any.
Yeah,
they won't be doing that. There's nothing they can do. Look, there's nothing you can do about that. Obviously, the Astros. I mean, some of these videos. Have you seen some of the videos, Webb, of like Altuve, like running home to home base, like holding his shirt,
Yeah,
saying "Don't mess with my shirt." I mean, I don't know if that's like photoshopped funny video shit or what, but the ones I've seen on Facebook certainly looks like he's holding his shirt, saying "Do not rip my shirt off" on the way to home plate.
Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, and there's one where something falls out, he puts it in his pocket or something too. I saw something like that. I mean, it's it's bullshit. Like we said, we talked about it. There's nothing wrong with little gamesmanship. If you're on second base, you kind of you want to give the batter a heads up. The catcher's leaning inside, outside. You see him put down a number 1 or number 2. That's all part of the game. But once you're taping electrodes to you and systematically, organizationally, trying to get an advantage, there's no place for that. So I
mean,
agree
just
with
above and beyond anything that putting a little Vaseline on a ball and all that shit. Like back in the day, remember it was like partly, the dude would throw the little sandpaper out on the mound.
Yeah.
And that's pretty bad, but this is above and beyond ridiculous.
Yeah, it's too much shit. So I agree with everything they get, but still at the end of the day, all Major League Baseball can do is be transparent in their whatever policing of it or their investigation of it, and just move on. That's all. Right. I mean, the Astros got slammed. Those picks and none of and these guys are disgraced now, which is worse. But AJ Hinch is,
these guys they'll never live this down.
Right.
And speaking of, we talked about Derek Jeter and the Hall of Fame. One more year that like Bonds and Clemens and those guys didn't get in there as well.
That's true.
Who else?
Larry Walker got in too. What do you think about that?
I think he's a good player. Good player. Yeah. I don't know. Certainly not unanimous, but I think he was a good outfielder for a long time. Good hitter, no doubt.
But if you're going to put a team, a baseball, a legitimate team in Colorado, you have to, guys from Colorado are good enough to be in the Hall of Fame ever. So, I mean, what are you going to do?
Right.
You can't not say no, you're not in because you not put, Kurt Warner in because he played in the Dome, in football or whatever it is. So, he's got, if the stats add up, then he's in. Doesn't matter where he played.
Only half of his games are at that place.
Right, exactly. He didn't play there his whole career. I think he was on the Expos to begin with, too.
And even every season, you're playing every
Right. It's only 81 games, right.
So,
did you see the brawl last night? That was one of the worst college basketball brawls I've seen.
I did. That was pretty heated, and especially because what happened was it was one of those unwritten rules or whatever bullshit. The dudes they're kind of running out the clock in case people didn't see. Kansas was kind of running out the clock. The game was won. They won by a bunch of points, and obviously Kansas against Kansas State's probably heated rivalry when it comes to that. And the kid comes up, steals the ball, and takes it down the court. Hopefully it wasn't on our over or under or whatever, one of those deals. But the kid on Kansas comes down in a fierce block on the layup, I think is what happened.
Yeah.
And so the Kansas State kid's kind of laying on the ground after it over, and the Kansas dude comes up, walks right up on him, and they were going at it. Chairs, I think dudes
were
it's
ugly.
Picking up chairs, everything. But
the one dude got suspended indefinitely, D'Souza, and I think there's 3 or 4 other people that got suspended as well.
Is that the big guy on Kansas, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It itself came out and said it was embarrassing, all that stuff. And I agree. That was too much. I don't know what's going. That's definitely unnecessary. Come on, guys.
Right. Certainly unnecessary, but I don't know about indefinitely means whatever. But just it shouldn't ruin Kansas's season. If that, you know what I mean? That dude that made the block at the end, he's one of their real good players, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but they can sit up now. We still got some time.
That's what I'm saying. 10 games is one thing, but not indefinitely meaning the rest of the season.
Right.
Definitely meaning we'll think about it, and maybe after 5 games, I think 5 games is shit happens. Shit happens, and you can't let that happen. But it was a heated situation. Once it gets over the top and into the stands, man, it's
all bets.
It's hard to get it looks bad, no doubt.
Right.
No doubt.
Yeah, the optics are not good. Right.
That's like when those Pacers play. I think it was the Pacers, Ron Artest and some of those guys went up into
Steven Jackson, and the Pistons, I think it was. Yeah.
They were actually fighting fans.
Right. That's right. I'm sure AB should have been that. AB was in this.
Right. So what else we got, Webb? That's about it tonight, or what?
Guess so, man. I don't know what else we got. I don't see anything else popping up here. I think that might cover it. I mean, obviously, as we move forward, it's college basketball heat up. We got, hockey. We got the All-Star games coming up, which is what it is. And we'll just get the heat of the hoops.
Dig it. All right, next week you get our super look. We've been pretty good. We last week we had the Chiefs and we had the Packers, and we had the Packers over, so we went 2-1 on those. And we've been doing good. Obviously, the NCAA Final Four. We had both of those games right and the national championship. We've been like we told you about the big game, so make sure you're here next week to get our Super Bowl pick. We talked a little bit about who we like now, but it's a long way to go between now and then. So let's
talk about props too. We'll take a look at some interesting props. Obviously MMA stuff comes up. We got the horses. We're on every night. The college hoops, NBA, and the hockey. Man, we love the ice.
Cool. Make sure you keep an eye out for all of our picks on Facebook at The Wager Makers Podcast, Twitter at The Wager Makers, Instagram The Wager Makers. You can email us for any questions at thewagermakers@gmail.com. Look out for Scott Wheatley's post tomorrow. We'll pop it on there. You can check out our picks and even buy some picks at sportswatchmonitor.com. John Grove, thanks for the bumper music. Check out his new Mardi Gras song. It's Mardi Gras season here in New Orleans, Web. iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Google Play Music, Apple Podbean, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. And Devin's going to tell us about YouTube right now.
Hi, this is Devin Weber. When you go on the Wager Makers Podcast webpage, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the bell to put on your post notifications. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Devin.
Thanks, Debbie.
All right, Webb. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll catch you next week. It'll be the special Super Bowl issue. Maybe we'll have some fortune teller or voodoo woman here or something like that to help us get this going. Take us out, Webb.
All right, Smith. Thanks for listening, everybody. Super Bowl box time. Smith are going to get paid. So.
All right, brother.
Later, man.
Later.